All right, so there are demonstrations also in Inner Mongolia.
It was against a move by Beijing that some consider to be a new round of cultural genocide. Local Mongolians in Inner Mongolia never call themselves Chinese but Mongolian. They've remained steadfast in their resistance against Beijing's communist regime for decades. And their fight reached a peak over the weekend. People there call their land Southern Mongolia. The protests began after a secret order from Beijing was leaked. It dictated that in all schools, teaching in the Mongolian language would be replaced with using the Chinese language, starting from this September. The U.S.-based Southern Mongolia Human Rights Information Center
Using the Chinese language. I thought they were using Russian and other things. So, I don't know, Mongolia's had some real challenges. Try to get ahead democratic-wise in the last decade or so. Some great changes there, but you're seeing China push back.
called this a new round of cultural genocide. From students to teachers, from villages to businessmen, from intellectuals to some government officials and celebrities, people from all walks of life of Southern Mongolia are standing up in an unprecedented level of solidarity. Local authorities are pushing for an early start to the semester, but parents and students across Southern Mongolia are joining the massive school boycott. Schools and classrooms are almost empty. There were students who came to schools, but only to protest. These students are crying, "Our mother tongue is Mongolian. Until death, we are Mongolian." Teacher strikes are also widespread, ignoring threats from the school authorities that they will lose their jobs. All Mongolian teachers in Shilingola League have gone on strike. Many parents are proposing to homeschool instead of sending their children to Chinese schools. Some retired teachers and even college students are volunteering to teach all subjects in Mongolian. Besides group protests and rallies, signature collection campaigns and solo protests in video, audio, and written format are going viral on social media. Mongolian lawyers are providing guidance online to defend the rights of Mongolian people, with the possibility of filing lawsuits against the new policy. Mongolian people are famous for their singing and dancing. During the protests, certain songs were popular. Citizens gathered together to sing "Let Us Mongolians Be Who We Are." At a concert, singers together with the audience were singing "My Mother Tongue is Mongolian." Videos went viral showing hundreds of herders and thousands of students in traditional Mongolian clothes gathered in separate places, singing "My Mongolia, Step Mongolia." A video shows a little girl crying on the floor. "I don't want to become Chinese. I don't want to learn Chinese." In another short video, a young Mongolian man shows a mock example of how to deal with a school by having their children take sick leave. He pretended to talk to the teacher, saying, "I am not sure when my child will recover, but I expect he will be fine by the time bilingual education is canceled." As the protest gathers momentum, the authorities are intensifying their crackdown. Hundreds of angry parents gathered in front of a school, demanding the school release their children. They had sent their children back to school a day ago without knowing about the new policy. Hundreds of riot police poured to the scene, preventing the parents from accessing the school dormitories. After a standoff lasting hours, parents finally broke through the police barricade and proceeded to collect their children. Students were running out to meet their parents. At another protest, Mongolian parents were met with force by the police. Several parents were beaten and taken into police vehicles. 2 leaders of the protests were taken away. Another 2 were put under house arrest. In another school, a student fell out of a school building and died from the fall. The cause of the accident is so far unknown. A video showing Mongolian schoolgirls protesting triggered a strong reaction online. Some Chinese also expressed their support. One of them wrote, "They didn't kneel down. They deserve to be a descendant of Genghis Khan." Mongolian students are protesting against the cancellation of Mongolian language teaching by the communist bandits. Please support them. China aspires to produce 70%.
So here's some more manufacturing problems with China.
Suffering a major setback. NTD's Juliet Song reports.
A Chinese chip maker, thought to lead the country's breakthroughs in high-end chip development, is now on the verge of collapse. Known as HSMC, a local report says the company has come to a halt because of funding problems. It marks a major setback in China's technology climb. Semiconductors or chips are at the heart of the world's tech race. They are the brains of electronic devices. Without them, today's smartphones and computers wouldn't be possible. Countries that dominate chip technology have political advantages over others. But compared to the world's best, China's chip manufacturing capabilities are still generations behind. TSMC, the world's biggest chip company, can mass-produce chips as tiny as 5 nanometers wide. China's strongest competitor can only manage 14 nanometers. As a result, China is heavily reliant on imports when it comes to high-end chips. It's the world's largest chip importer, bringing in more than $300 billion worth of chips last year. In recent years, Beijing has doubled down on its efforts to become self-reliant in technology production. The regime has poured tens of billions of dollars into the industry, attempting to build up its own cutting-edge chip manufacturers. HSMC is part of that effort, but is now stalled. Another leading company, SMIC, also remains unable to make the jump. HSMC's potential collapse could also be a blow to Chinese telecoms giant Huawei, which is running out of chips amid strict U.S. sanctions. Huawei needs 7 nanometer chips for its high-end smartphones, but no Chinese factories can mass produce them. In the meantime, the U.S. is cutting off Huawei's chip supply. The Trump administration imposed sanctions, preventing manufacturers from selling any chips made with U.S. technology to Huawei. Huawei could find a way out of the jam if Chinese chip makers manage a major production breakthrough. But with HSMC on the verge of collapse, it seems unlikely. Juliet Song, NTD News.
China.
All right, so locust problems also. Flooding. China's really going through it.
Southern provinces are facing their worst locust plague in decades. According to the South China Morning Post, a swarm of yellow-ridged bamboo locusts crossed the border from Laos into Yunnan province in June. They've since been gradually moving northward. As of mid-August, over 26,000 acres have been affected in the province. Yunnan's provincial government has sent tens of thousands of investigators to explore the situation in rural areas and forests. Investigators say the highly mobile locust swarms are difficult to control in the mountains. Amid what's considered the worst storm in decades, China's agriculture has also been suffering from both severe flooding and drought. Now we turn to another kind of disaster. A restaurant in a northern Chinese village collapsed during a local resident's 80th birthday celebration, leaving 29 people dead. On Saturday, the roof of a restaurant in Linfeng City inside Shanxi province collapsed. 29 people who attended the party died, while another 30 were injured. It wasn't immediately clear what caused the collapse. Locals explained that a decade ago, the building where the roof collapsed used to be a yard. They said the restaurant built a roof above it, turning the space into a banquet hall. But they explained that professionals weren't brought in to design or construct the roof. Instead, the restaurant owners built it themselves. The Czech Republic's second highest ranking official is in Taiwan to promote ties between the two countries. He said that his country will not be deterred by objections from the Chinese Communist Party.
Freedom, truth, and justice. These are your best swords, also your best armor.
nejlepším brněním.
Addressing Taiwan's National Chengchi University today, Czech President of the Senate called on Taiwan to defend its freedom and democracy. He said that democratic countries should support each other. The Czech delegate is the second highest ranking official in the Czech Republic and also the most senior one to visit the self-ruled island of Taiwan. The move has drawn the ire of the Chinese regime. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi said that the Czech official will pay a heavy price for his trip to Taiwan. Czech Deputy Minister summoned the Chinese ambassador in Czech over the comment, with the Czech Foreign Minister saying it has gone too far. Wang was in Europe during the past week, countering growing discontent over China's role in the pandemic and its human rights abuses. In his speech, the Czech official recounted Czechia's history of being betrayed by European countries in the 1938 Munich Agreement. At the time, the UK and France allowed Hitler's invasion of what was Czechoslovakia in order to avoid a war with the Nazis. Yet the Czech official said the appeasement did not bring peace to Europe and eventually dragged the world into World War II. He said the world should have learned from history.
Víme velmi dobře.
Please believe that we in Czech understand what it means to the Taiwanese people to have the big brother always behind your back. For our shared experience, we understand you and we stand together with
kterou
you.
máme společnou.
Czechia and Taiwan signed 3 memorandums where the two states will cooperate on artificial intelligence, medicine, and more. When asked about Czechia's role in China's Belt and Road Initiative, he instead recommended more cooperations between Czech and Taiwanese businesses.
My vám otevřeme dveře do Evropy.
We help you open the doors of Europe, and you can help us open the door of Asia. This is mutually beneficial.
Spolupráci a to je
The Czech official is accompanied by a delegation of 89 people, which includes business leaders, lawmakers, and the mayor of Prague, who stopped his city's sister city agreement with Beijing and started one with Taiwan's capital Taipei, despite backlash from China. The group is scheduled to meet with Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen on Thursday. The visit fulfilled a promise by the former Czech Senate president. The official died earlier this year, and his widow accused Czechia's pro-Beijing president and the local Chinese embassy of being responsible for his death. The widow said 3 days before Kubera's death, he was invited to the Chinese embassy for dinner, after which the official's health deteriorated quickly. The widow also found 2 letters among Kubera's belongings, one from the Czech president, the other from the Chinese embassy. Both threatened him not to visit Taiwan. The official's death caused a backlash in the Czech Republic against China. The Czech Senate voted 50-1 in May in favor of his successor's diplomatic visit to Taiwan. Penny Zhou, NTD News.
So there you are. China bumping off that official and the backlash, and they're coming anyhow. There you are. China's getting its upcomings. It's Roger Martin from Billings, Montana. Thanks, NTD, for their news. I really appreciate their news on China Inside today.